Rain hammered the windshield as Adrian Keller drove through the forest road. In the back seat, Elena Marlowe struggled against the ropes around her wrists. "Adrian, please," she said, her voice shaking. "You've gone too far." Adrian didn't look back. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "Too far," he muttered. "You left me, Elena, after everything." "I didn't leave you," she said. "I escaped you." The car stopped. The headlights revealed a massive silhouette in the darkness, a decaying mansion with broken balconies and tall windows like hollow eyes. Adrian smiled faintly. "Welcome home." The doors groaned as Adrian dragged Elena inside. Dust floated in the air like gray snow. The chandelier above them creaked slowly, even though there was no wind. Elena shivered. "Adrian, why here?" "Because no one comes here," he said calmly. "No neighbors, no police, no interruptions." He tied her to a wooden chair in the center of the grand hall. "Eventually," he said softly, kneeling in front of her, "you'll remember you love me." "I never did," she whispered. The words struck him like a slap. For a moment, rage burned in his eyes. But he stood up instead. "You will." He walked away, leaving her in the dim hall. The front door slammed. Silence swallowed the mansion. Elena tried to calm her breathing. Then, footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming from the upper floor. "Adrian?" she called. No answer. The steps continued. Step, step, step. But something was wrong. The sound moved across the ceiling above her without any floorboards creaking. Her heart pounded. "Adrian, stop it!" The chandelier began to sway slightly. Then a cold wind brushed past her ear. A whisper. "Elena." Her breath froze. "Who's there?" The whisper came again. "Elena." But it came from behind her. She twisted her head. Nothing. Yet the air felt occupied, watching. Later that night, Adrian returned with a lantern. Elena looked pale. "What happened to you?" he asked. "There's someone else here." Adrian laughed. "There's no one here. I heard footsteps. It's an old house." "No," she whispered. "Someone said my name." Adrian rolled his eyes. "You're imagining things." He placed food on the table and walked toward the staircase. But suddenly, the lantern flame went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. "What the hell?" Adrian muttered. Then something grabbed his arm. Invisible fingers, cold as ice. "What?" He was violently thrown across the room. Elena screamed. Adrian crashed into the wall, gasping. "Who's there?" he shouted. The temperature dropped. Frost spread across the windows. And then a voice filled the hall. Deep, echoing, possessive. "She does not belong to you." Adrian's face went pale. "What the—" He was lifted off the floor by an unseen force. His feet kicked wildly. "Let go of me." The voice spoke again. "She belongs to me." Adrian was hurled down the hallway and smashed through a door. The mansion shook. Then silence returned. The ropes around Elena's wrists slowly loosened, by themselves. She stumbled to her feet. "Thank you," she whispered nervously. Cold air gathered in front of her. Mist formed. Slowly, a figure appeared. A tall man made of shadow and pale light. His eyes glowed faintly silver. "Elena." Her breath trembled. Who are you? The apparition said. I am Lucian Vale. Are you a ghost? Yes. She stepped back. Did you save me from Adrian? Lucian watched her with intense focus. For years, I have been alone in this house. His voice softened. Until you came. A chill ran down her spine. Thank you for helping me, she said carefully. Now I should leave. She walked toward the door. It slammed shut. Locked. Lucian's expression darkened slightly. No. Her heart dropped. What do you mean, no? You cannot leave. Fear crept into her voice. You said you saved me. I did.
His form drifted closer, but the world outside took you from me once already. What? Lucian reached out. A cold, transparent hand brushed her cheek. I will not lose you. Elena's stomach twisted with dread. You're keeping me here? Yes. Her voice shook. That's not saving me. That's kidnapping me. Lucian stared at her with haunting affection. Call it what you wish. The doors locked. The windows slammed shut. The mansion groaned like a living thing. Lucian whispered softly, You are safe here. Elena backed away slowly. Safe from him, she said. Lucian's eyes glowed brighter. But not from me. The lights flickered out, and in the darkness, the ghost smiled. The darkness swallowed the grand hall. Elena's breath came out in short, shaky bursts. Across the room, the pale figure of Lucian Vale flickered like a flame that refused to die. You're afraid, he said quietly. Of course I am, Elena snapped, her voice cracking. You just locked me in a haunted mansion.
Lucian tilted his head slightly, studying her. I locked the world out, he said, not you in. That's the same thing. He moved closer without walking, gliding over the floor like mist. The cold around him seeped into the room. You do not understand loneliness, he murmured. Try me, Elena whispered. Lucian's silver eyes darkened with something ancient. I died here, he said. The words hung in the air like a curse. The chandelier above them creaked slowly. Lucian looked up at it as if remembering something far away. This house once belonged to me, he said, 2 centuries ago. Elena swallowed. My family lived here. Servants, music, laughter. His voice became hollow. And betrayal. The temperature dropped further. My brother wanted the estate. My wife wanted my brother. Elena stared. They poisoned me, Lucian said softly, and buried my body beneath this house. A long silence followed. That's horrible, Elena whispered. Lucian's eyes slowly returned to her. They left me here. His voice cracked faintly. Alone. For a moment, Elena felt something unexpected. Not fear. Pity. A loud crash echoed somewhere upstairs. Both of them froze. Elena's eyes widened. Adrian! Lucian's expression darkened instantly. I threw him out. He's still here, Elena said. He's stubborn. Another crash. Footsteps. Running. Adrian's furious voice echoed from the hallway. Adrian! Where are you? Lucian's face twisted with rage. He should have died. The door burst open. Adrian stood there, bleeding from the forehead, holding a broken table leg like a weapon. His eyes widened when he saw Lucian. What the hell are you? Lucian's form expanded slightly,
shadows crawling across the walls. "I warned you." Adrian grabbed Elena's arm. "Come with me." Before Elena could react, the mansion exploded with noise. Doors slammed, windows shattered. Furniture lifted into the air. Adrian screamed as an invisible force slammed him into the ceiling. "Let me go." Lucian's voice thundered through the hall. "You touched what is mine." Adrian was thrown across the room again. He crashed into a pillar and collapsed. Elena gasped. "Lucian, stop! You'll kill him!" Lucian froze. His glowing eyes slowly turned toward her. "You care for him?" "No." "Then why protect him?" Elena hesitated. "Because I'm not a monster." The words struck Lucian harder than anything. The room slowly calmed. Furniture dropped. The wind died. Adrian groaned on the floor, barely conscious. Lucian stared at Elena in silence. Something fragile flickered in his expression. Hours later, Adrian was locked inside a distant room upstairs. The ghost had sealed the door with supernatural force. Elena sat on a dusty couch in the hall. Lucian stood near the staircase, watching her like a silent guardian. "You didn't have to keep him alive," he said. Elena hugged her arms. "I don't want anyone dying because of me." Lucian watched her carefully. "You are strange." "Thanks." "I meant it as admiration." She looked up at him. "Lucian, this isn't right." "What isn't?" "Keeping me here." Lucian's voice softened. "If I let you leave, you will never return. That's how freedom works." He looked away. Silence filled the hall again. Then suddenly, a piano note echoed through the mansion. One single key. Elena jumped. "You have a piano?" Lucian glanced toward the dark music room. "I used to play. Can you still?" His ghostly fingers flexed. "Watch." He drifted into the room. Elena hesitated, then followed. The old grand piano sat beneath a cracked window. Lucian lowered himself onto the bench. His hands hovered over the keys. "Listen." He pressed down. The music that followed was hauntingly beautiful. Slow. Sad. Like a memory trying to survive time. Elena stood frozen. "That's incredible." Lucian glanced at her while playing. "My wife once said the same." His voice carried quiet pain. The melody changed. Softer now. Warmer. For a moment, Elena forgot she was trapped. Forgot the horror. Forgot Adrian. There was only the music. When Lucian finished, the last note lingered in the air. Elena smiled faintly. "You know, for a terrifying ghost kidnapper," Lucian raised an eyebrow, "you're surprisingly talented." For the first time in 200 years, Lucian laughed. The sound echoed through the empty mansion. But upstairs, in the darkness, Adrian's eyes slowly opened, and this time he wasn't looking at Elena. He was staring directly at Lucian, with hatred and a terrifying new plan. The mansion had grown quieter. But the silence was not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that watched. Elena woke to the sound of soft humming. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the cracked ceiling, the dusty curtains, and the tall shadow standing beside the window. Lucian Vale. He turned slowly when he noticed her stir. "You are awake." Elena sat up on the old bed. "How long was I asleep?" "Several hours."
She rubbed her temples. You stayed here the whole time? Yes. That's creepy, Lucian. He was making sure you were safe. From what? Lucian's silver eyes flickered. From everything. The way he said it made Elena uneasy. You don't need to watch me constantly, she said gently. Lucian didn't move. But I want to. The words were simple. Too simple. And that made them frightening. Later that morning, Elena tried the front door again. Still locked. The windows wouldn't open either. Even the broken ones sealed shut like invisible walls blocked them. Lucian appeared beside her. You are trying to leave. Yes. You know you cannot. You don't get to decide that. Lucian's voice remained calm. I already did. Elena's patience snapped. You saved me from one kidnapper just to become another. Lucian's expression tightened. I am nothing like him. You literally imprisoned me. I protected you. From the world or from losing me? She demanded. The question hit him hard. Lucian looked away. For the first time, his voice carried desperation. I have waited 200 years in silence. The chandelier trembled slightly above them. I will not be alone again. Elena felt a chill crawl up her spine. This wasn't love, it was need. Night came faster than expected. Storm clouds swallowed the moon. Elena sat near the fireplace, staring into the flames. Lucian stood behind her, watching. Always watching. You're doing it again, she said. Doing what? Staring at me like I might disappear. Lucian stepped closer. You might. Before she could respond, a voice echoed from the staircase. Well, this is awkward. Elena's heart stopped. Adrian stood there, bruised, bloody, but smiling. You're alive, Elena whispered. Thanks to your ghost boyfriend. Lucian's eyes flared with fury. You should not be free. Adrian chuckled. You locked the door. He tapped his temple. But you forgot something. What? Elena asked. Adrian grinned. I'm very good at surviving. Lucian lifted a hand. Furniture around the hall began shaking violently. Leave this house. Adrian didn't move. Funny thing is, he said slowly, I'm not here for her anymore. Elena frowned. What? Adrian's eyes shifted toward Lucian. I'm here for you. Lucian's form darkened. You are foolish. Maybe, Adrian said, but I've seen enough horror movies to know something. He pointed at the walls. You're bound to this place. Lucian's eyes narrowed. And? Adrian smiled slowly. What if I burn the mansion down? The temperature dropped instantly. Lucian's voice became deadly. You would destroy yourself as well. Adrian shrugged. If I can't have her, nobody can. Elena stepped between them. Stop! Both men, one living, one dead, looked at her. This is insane, she shouted. I'm not a prize. Lucian's voice softened. Adrian laughed darkly. See, I told you he's worse than me. Elena felt panic rising. Two men, both obsessed, one living, one dead, neither willing to let her go. Later that night, Adrian was locked again in another room, this time with chains, real ones. Lucian had dragged them from the basement. Elena watched him finish sealing the door. You're treating him like an animal. He is dangerous. So are you. Lucian turned slowly. The candlelight flickered through his translucent form. Elena. His voice was quieter now, more human. When I first saw you enter this house, he hesitated. I felt something I had forgotten. What? Warmth. Elena didn't respond. Lucian stepped closer. I do not want to harm you. Then let me go. Silence filled the hallway. Lucian reached toward her. His ghostly fingers hovered inches from her face. If I let you go. His voice trembled. Will you come back? Elena couldn't answer, and the silence between them said everything. Lucian slowly lowered his hand. The walls of the mansion creaked like something grieving. But upstairs, Adrian sat in the darkness, smiling, because he had noticed something important. When Elena stood close to Lucian, the ghost became less transparent, more solid, more human. And Adrian whispered to himself in the dark, "Good. Fall in love with her. Because when you become human, that's when I can finally kill you." The storm outside grew louder, and the mansion seemed to hold its breath. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe for more. And those who already liked and subscribed, thank you so much. Your support means a lot. This is part 2 of the previous one, named When the Dead Fall in Love. The storm raged through the night. Thunder rolled over the hills like something enormous dragging chains across the sky. Inside the mansion, the air felt heavier than before, almost alive. Elena couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the same sensation. Someone watching. She sat up in the bed. Lucian. The word barely left her lips before the curtains moved. And he appeared, standing beside the window like he had been there the whole time. You called? Elena sighed. You really were watching me sleep. Lucian looked confused. Is that wrong? Yes. He studied her expression carefully. I am still learning how the living think. Well, rule number 1, Elena said, don't stare at someone while they sleep. Lucian nodded thoughtfully. I will stand farther away next time. That's not what I meant. For a moment there was silence. Then Lucian said quietly, I cannot stop looking at you. Elena's stomach tightened. That's exactly the problem. Lucian walked closer. His form flickered faintly, as if struggling to stay solid. You brought something back to his house, he said. What? Feeling. He placed a hand against his chest. I had forgotten how this felt. Elena noticed something strange. His hand was almost solid. You're changing, she said. Lucian frowned. What do you mean? Your hands, I can almost see skin. Lucian stared at them. The faint outline of veins appeared beneath the pale glow.
Interesting, he murmured. Upstairs, chains rattled softly. Adrian sat against the wall, listening. Through the cracked floorboards, he could hear their voices.
He smiled slowly. Perfect. He whispered to himself. The ghost gets stronger when she's near him. He leaned forward in the dark. That means he can die. Adrian stood and tested the chains. They pulled tight, but he wasn't worried. He had noticed something else earlier. In the hallway, a hidden door in the floor, leading down to the basement. And every old haunted mansion had the same thing in the basement. Secrets. Back downstairs, Elena stood in the hallway with Lucien. You shouldn't stay so close to me, she said quietly. Why? Because it's making things worse. For who? For you. Lucien tilted his head. I do not understand. Elena hesitated. Then slowly, she reached out. Her fingers brushed his hand. For the first time, they touched. Lucien froze. His eyes widened in shock. Her hand didn't pass through him. Instead, it rested against something cold but solid. Lucien's voice became a whisper. I can feel you. Elena quickly pulled back. Lucien stared at his hand like it was a miracle. I have not felt anything in 200 years. His gaze slowly lifted to her. Elena. The hunger in his eyes deepened, not violent, but desperate. I need you to stay. Her chest tightened. This is exactly why I can't. Later that night, Elena explored the hallway alone. She needed air, space, anything to escape Lucien's constant presence. She walked toward a staircase leading downward, the basement door. It creaked open slowly. A terrible smell rose from below. Damp earth, old wood, and something metallic. She grabbed a candle and stepped down the stairs. The basement was enormous. Stone walls, ancient shelves, and in the center of the room, a disturbed patch of dirt. Elena knelt beside it. Her heart pounded. Is this... A voice answered behind her. Yes. She jumped. Lucien stood at the bottom of the stairs. My grave. The candlelight flickered across the dirt mound. You were buried here? She whispered. Yes. Elena stared at the soil. If your body is here, that means... Removing it could free me, Lucien finished. Her eyes widened. Then you could leave this house? Lucien didn't respond. Instead, he asked quietly, and go where? The world. Lucien looked at her with painful intensity. And if I leave, will you still stay? Elena didn't answer. The silence was enough. Lucien stepped back slowly. Then perhaps I prefer the prison. Suddenly, a loud metallic crack echoed upstairs. Both of them froze. The chains, broken. Footsteps thundered down the staircase. Adrian appeared in the doorway. But something was different. He was holding a rusted knife and an old leather book. His smile was wider than before. I found something interesting in your basement library, he said. Lucien's voice became dangerously low. Put it down. Adrian ignored him. He opened the book and read aloud. When the bones of the restless are bound to the earth, the spirit may be destroyed by blood upon the grave. Elena's blood ran cold. You're insane, she whispered. Adrian stepped closer to the dirt mound. Maybe. He raised the knife. But if I kill the ghost, his eyes flicked toward Elena, you'll have no one left to protect you. Lucian moved instantly. The entire basement shook violently. Stone cracked. Shelves collapsed. Adrian staggered but laughed. You can't stop me forever. The knife hovered above the grave. Lucian roared, Don't! But Elena moved first. She ran forward and grabbed Adrian's arm. Stop! The knife slipped from his hand. It hit the floor with a loud clang. For a moment, all three stood frozen. Then Adrian leaned close to Elena's ear and whispered, You don't understand. His eyes flicked toward Lucian. If he becomes human, he won't let you leave either. Elena slowly turned toward the ghost. Lucian stood motionless in the shadows, watching her, possessively. And for the first time, Elena wondered something terrifying. Maybe Adrian was right. Maybe the ghost in love was far more dangerous than the man who kidnapped her. The basement felt colder after Adrian's whisper. Elena slowly stepped away from him. Her mind was racing. Two men, both obsessed, both dangerous. And the mansion itself felt like it was closing around her like a cage. She realized something terrifying. If she didn't escape soon, she might never leave. Later that night, the house fell silent again. Adrian had been locked in another room upstairs. Lucian stood in the grand hall, staring at the broken chandelier, lost in thought. Elena watched him from the staircase. For a moment, he looked peaceful, almost human, but that only made things worse, because she could see it clearly now. The more time she spent near him, the more solid he became. If she stayed here long enough, Lucian might truly become alive again, and if that happened, he would never let her go. Her heart pounded. I'm sorry, she whispered to herself. Then she began moving quietly through the hallway. Elena remembered the basement. Lucian's body was buried there, and he had said something important. Removing it could free him from the house. If Lucian was no longer tied to the mansion, the supernatural locks might disappear. She grabbed a lantern and a rusted shovel from the storage room. The basement stairs creaked under her weight. Every step felt louder than thunder. She reached the dirt mound, Lucian's grave. Her hands trembled as she pushed the shovel into the soil. Thunk. The sound echoed. She froze. No footsteps upstairs. No ghost appearing. Good. She kept digging. Dirt piled around her feet. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Her arms burned with exhaustion. Finally, the shovel struck something hard. Wood. Her heart stopped. She uncovered the top of a coffin. God! Her hands shook as she brushed away the dirt. Lucian, I hope this works. The basement suddenly became freezing. The lantern flickered violently. Elena slowly turned. Lucian stood behind her, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. You are digging my grave. Her breath caught. His voice was not angry, just hurt. Why? Elena swallowed. Because I have to leave. Lucian stared at the coffin. You want to free me? Yes. Not out of kindness. Elena's voice trembled. Out of survival. The word struck him like a blade. Lucian's form flickered violently. So you fear me that much? You're keeping me prisoner. I am protecting you from a world I choose to live in. Silence filled the basement. Lucian stepped closer to the coffin. If you open this, he said quietly, everything changes. Good. You may regret it. Elena wiped dirt from her face. I already regret coming here. With shaking hands, she pried open the old wooden lid. The wood cracked loudly. Dust rose into the air. Slowly, the coffin opened. Inside lay a skeleton dressed in decayed aristocratic clothing. The remains of Lucian Vale. Elena stared at it in horror. Lucian looked down at his own bones. For the first time in 200 years. So that is what remains of me. His voice sounded strangely distant. Elena looked up. What happens now? Lucian didn't answer. Instead, the entire mansion shook violently. Walls groaned. Windows shattered upstairs. The lantern exploded. Darkness swallowed the basement. Lucian suddenly grabbed Elena's arm. This time, his grip felt completely solid. Elena. His voice sounded different now. Alive. Stay close. The ground cracked beneath the coffin. Dust rained from the ceiling. From upstairs came a familiar voice shouting, Well, this just got interesting. Adrian. He appeared at the top of the stairs holding a flashlight. His eyes widened when he saw Lucian. Wow, he laughed. You look a lot less dead now. Lucian turned slowly toward him, his body now half solid. Half ghost. You should have left. Adrian stepped down the stairs confidently. Oh no, he grinned. I think things are finally getting good. Elena looked between them in horror. Lucian was becoming human. Adrian was still insane. And the mansion itself was collapsing around them. She whispered to herself, What have I done? And somewhere deep beneath the basement floor, something ancient shifted in the darkness. Something that had been sleeping far longer than Lucian. And Elena had just opened the door. Lucian's POV. I had forgotten what it felt like to breathe. For 2 centuries, I had existed as wind and memory. Thin, distant, untouchable. But now something strange was happening inside me. My chest moved. Air filled my lungs. It burned. I looked down at my hands. They were no longer made of mist alone. Pale skin stretched across bone, faint and ghostly, but real enough to feel the cold basement air. And the warmth of her. Elena's arm was still in my grasp. Her pulse beat quickly under my fingers. Alive. So painfully alive. I had dreamed of this sensation for 200 years. And yet, the first thing she did when she touched my hand was pull away. Fear filled her eyes. Not wonder. Not relief. Fear. It felt worse than the poison that killed me. The basement trembled around us, dust falling from the ceiling. At the top of the stairs stood Adrian Kella, smiling like a man watching a play. I knew it, he said. You're becoming human. His voice grated against my mind like rusted iron. I stepped in front of Elena instinctively. Even now, part ghost and part flesh, the mansion still obeyed me. The walls groaned. The air thickened. You should not have come back, I told him. Adrian shrugged. Oh, I think I should have. He pointed his flashlight at my chest. You're weaker now. I frowned. Weaker? Yeah, he said with a grin. Ghosts are hard to kill. He raised the rusted knife again. But humans? My body reacted before my mind could. I moved. In a blink, I crossed the basement. My hand closed around his throat and slammed him into the stone wall. The impact echoed like thunder. His feet lifted off the floor. You mistake my change for weakness, I said quietly. Adrian gasped for air, but still managed a crooked smile. Maybe. Then he whispered something that made my grip tighten. But she's still afraid of you. I looked over my shoulder. Elena stood near the open coffin, her face pale, her hands trembling. Her eyes locked on me like I was the monster in the room. My chest tightened in a way I didn't understand. Pain. Real pain. Not the distant emotional echo I had felt for centuries. This was sharp. Human. I released Adrian and stepped back. He collapsed to the floor, coughing. Elena, I said softly. She didn't move, didn't step closer, didn't speak, only watched me carefully, like a prisoner studying her guard. My voice came out rougher than before. You freed me. I freed myself, she replied quietly. The words cut deeper than they should have. I looked down at the skeleton in the coffin, the remains of the man I once was. 200 years, I murmured. My world ended in this room. Adrian laughed weakly from the floor. Yeah, tragic story. He slowly stood again. But here's the thing, Lucian. He pointed at Elena. She doesn't belong to you. My gaze snapped toward him. Neither did my wife. The basement fell silent. Memories flooded my mind. Her smile, her lies, the poison burning my throat. The darkness closing around me as they buried me under my own house. My hands trembled, and suddenly I realized something terrifying. I was no longer only a ghost filled with memory. I was a man again, and men could lose everything. Again. I turned toward Elena. I never wanted to cage you. She crossed her arms. You locked every door. I was afraid. The confession tasted strange. I thought if you left, the silence would return. And now? She asked. I looked at my half-solid hands, my beating heart, the open grave behind her. I don't know what I am anymore. Adrian wiped blood from his mouth and chuckled. Oh, I know what you are. We both looked at him. He pointed between us. You're two obsessed idiots fighting over the same woman. Elena snapped. I'm not an object. Adrian shrugged. Tell that to him. The accusation hung in the air. I slowly stepped back from Elena. The mansion groaned above us like something restless, and deep below the basement floor, something moved. I felt it instantly, a cold presence older than my own haunting, older than the house, older than the grave. My voice dropped to a whisper. We need to leave. Elena frowned. Why? Before I could answer, the stone floor cracked open beneath the coffin. Black air rushed upward like a breath from the earth itself, and a voice rose from the darkness below.
low, ancient, hungry. After 200 years. The ground trembled. The door is finally open. My blood ran cold because I realized something horrible. Elena had not only freed me, she had freed something else. Like and subscribe for more. And those who already subscribed, thank you so much.
This is part 3 of the previous one, named When the Dead Fall in Love. I remember the moment the ground split open. The crack beneath my coffin spread like a wound through the stone floor. Cold air rushed upward, sick and ancient, carrying a presence far older than my own restless spirit. For 200 years, I had believed I was the master of this mansion. I was wrong. The darkness below us breathed. And then the voice came again. Finally. The basement trembled as shadows rose from the broken earth. They twisted slowly together until a tall figure formed in the darkness. Not like me. I had been pale, tragic, human once. This thing felt older than humanity. Elena stepped back beside me, her hand brushing my arm. I could feel the warmth of her skin clearly now. My heart, newly beating, pounded with a fear I had not known since the night I died. The figure finished forming. Tall, draped in shadows that moved like smoke. 2 faint silver eyes opened. I have waited centuries for this door to open. Adrian laughed nervously from the stairs. Oh, great, another ghost. The figure slowly turned its gaze toward him. You are not important. The air tightened. Adrian suddenly lifted off the ground like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. His smile disappeared instantly. Hey, wait! The shadow closed its hand. Adrian's scream echoed once, then silence. His body dropped to the stone floor. Still. Elena gasped softly beside me. The ancient spirit turned its gaze toward her. But something strange happened then. The shadows around it softened. You are the one who opened the grave? Elena swallowed. Yes. The spirit studied her quietly. I felt your fear. Its voice was not cruel, just old, very old. Then it looked toward me, and I felt your obsession. My jaw tightened. Elena is under my protection. The spirit tilted its head slightly. You mistake protection for possession. The words struck me harder than any weapon. I stepped forward anyway. I will not let you harm her. The ancient spirit watched me with something almost like curiosity. You are no longer fully dead. No, nor fully alive. I didn't answer. Elena stepped forward then. Who are you? The shadows around the figure slowly thinned, revealing a face both calm and ageless. My name was Kalen long before this house was built. His voice carried centuries within it. I was bound beneath this land when men feared what they did not understand. Elena stared. You were imprisoned? Yes. His eyes turned toward the broken grave. And you freed me. Silence filled the basement. Then Kaelin asked gently, "Why did you open the grave?" Elena took a deep breath. "Because I wanted my freedom." Kaelin studied her for a long moment. Then something surprising happened. He smiled faintly. "A reasonable desire." I felt something twist inside my chest. For 200 years I had dreamed of a connection, of not being alone. And yet, the way Elena looked at him, there was no fear, only curiosity, even trust. I realized something painful then. She had never looked at me that way. Kaelin extended a hand toward her. "Come." Elena hesitated. "Where?" "Away from this prison." She glanced at me. I understood the question in her eyes. For the first time since her arrival, I stepped aside. The mansion creaked softly above us. "I cannot leave this place," I said quietly. "And you deserve more than another cage." Elena's voice softened. "Lucien." I forced a faint smile. "You gave me something I thought I lost forever." "What?" "Life." My heart beat steadily in my chest. Even if it would fade once she left, that is enough. Kaelin and Elena walked toward the basement stairs together. But before leaving, Elena looked back once more. "Lucien, you're not alone anymore." I frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She pointed toward the open earth beneath the basement. "You're free, too." I turned slowly toward the grave. For the first time in centuries, the mansion no longer felt like a prison. Just a house, empty, quiet, at peace. Outside, the storm had passed. Moonlight spread across the forest. Elena stepped out of the mansion and breathed deeply. Kaelin stood beside her, the night wind moving gently through the shadows around him. "You are not afraid of me," he said. Elena smiled faintly. "I've been kidnapped by a man and imprisoned by a ghost tonight." She glanced at him. "You're actually the least terrifying one." Kaelin laughed softly, a sound ancient and warm at the same time. "Then perhaps we will get along." They began walking down the old path away from the mansion. Elena looked at him curiously. "So what happens now?" Kaelin looked up at the moon above the trees. "For centuries, I watched the world from darkness." He turned to her. "Now I would like to see it again." "With me?" she asked. "If you wish." Elena thought for a moment. Then she nodded. "Yeah." And together they disappeared into the forest. Behind them, the old mansion stood silent under the moonlight. For the first time in 200 years, no ghosts remained inside. The forest was quiet after the storm. Moonlight filtered through the tall trees, painting silver patterns across the wet ground. The air smelled fresh, earth, rain, and something ancient that seemed to follow Kaelin wherever he walked. Elena wrapped her arms around herself as they moved deeper into the woods. She glanced back once. The old mansion stood far away now, barely visible between the trees. For the first time since she had been kidnapped, there were no locked doors, no watchers, no cages, just the night. She exhaled slowly. "Freedom feels strange," she said. Kaelin walked beside her silently for a few moments before replying. "It often does. His voice carried a calm weight to it, like someone who had seen centuries pass. "You are not asking where I am taking you." Elena shrugged slightly. "You saved me from Adrian. You didn't trap me like Lucien." She gave him a small smile. "So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt." Kaylin looked down at her thoughtfully. "You trust easily." "Not really," she replied. "I just trust my instincts." "And what do they tell you now?" Elena studied him. The shadows around his body moved gently, like slow smoke, but his presence no longer felt threatening, just powerful, old, lonely. "They tell me you're not the kind of monster people think you are." Kaylin's gaze softened slightly. "You would be surprised how often monsters are simply misunderstood." They reached a hill overlooking the valley below. In the distance, the faint lights of a town glowed against the dark horizon. Elena sat down on a fallen tree. "So, how old are you really?" Kaylin stood beside her, looking toward the distant lights. "I walked this land long before those towns existed." "Hundreds of years?" "More." Elena raised her eyebrows. "Wow." She paused before asking quietly, "Were you always like this?" Kaylin shook his head slowly. "I was once human." That caught her attention. "Really?" "Yes." "What happened?" For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he spoke softly. "People feared what they could not understand. They believed my connection to the unseen world made me dangerous. And so they buried me alive beneath sacred ground." Elena's eyes widened. "That's horrible." "Yes, but death is not always the end." The wind moved through the trees around them. Elena looked at him again. "You must hate humans." Kaylin shook his head. "No." "Why not?" He glanced at her. "Because you exist." Elena felt her cheeks warm slightly. She quickly looked away. "Well, I'm not exactly the best example of humanity." "You freed a spirit you did not understand." "That's true." "You showed compassion to a ghost who imprisoned you." She sighed. "Okay, maybe I make questionable decisions." Kaylin smiled faintly. "For someone who claims to trust instincts, you question yourself often." Elena laughed softly. "You'd think centuries of wisdom would make you less observant." Quite the opposite. The night breeze picked up again. Elena shivered slightly. Without saying anything, Kaylin moved closer. The shadows around him shifted gently, blocking the wind. Warmth spread around her. She looked up at him. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to." Silence settled between them again. But this silence was different from the mansion's suffocating quiet. This one felt peaceful. Elena finally spoke again. "So what now?" Kaylin turned toward the distant lights of the town. "The world has changed while I slept. Cars, phones, internet, reality shows." "Yes, I sensed as much." She grinned. "You're going to need a lot of catching up." "That is why I have you." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Am I your guide to the modern world now?" "If you are willing." Elena thought for a moment. Then she stood and stretched. "Well?" She looked down the hill toward the lights of civilization. "I don't really have a home anymore." Her life before tonight felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else. She turned back to Kaylin. But maybe I could help an ancient spirit learn how the world works. And maybe, she added, smiling slightly, you can help me survive it. Kaylin extended his hand toward her. Then we walk forward together. Elena took his hand. Unlike Lucian's cold, ghostly touch, Kaylin's felt steady, ancient, powerful, but gentle. They started walking down the hill toward the lights, toward a world neither of them fully understood anymore. Behind them, the forest whispered quietly, and far away inside the abandoned mansion, for a brief moment, a faint piano note echoed through the empty halls, as if Lucian was finally learning how to live with the silence. The night continued, and Elena's strange new life beside an ancient ghost had only just begun. Kaylin's povey. I had walked this earth long before iron roads, electric lights, and humming machines. Yet the strangest thing I had encountered in centuries was her. Elena walked a few steps ahead of me down the hill, carefully avoiding the wet stones. The moonlight rested on her hair like pale silver. I had watched countless humans in my long existence. Fearful ones, cruel ones, greedy ones. But she was something rarer. A human who had been trapped, threatened, nearly killed, and still carried kindness in her heart. It fascinated me, and that was dangerous. The town lights grew brighter as we approached. I could feel the pulse of modern life in the distance. Engines, electricity, thousands of minds moving in chaotic rhythm. It was overwhelming. For centuries, my world had been darkness and soil, silence and waiting. Now the world roared with life. Elena glanced back at me. You're staring again? I blinked slightly. I apologize. She smirked. You don't have to apologize every time you do something weird. Weird? Yes. She gestured toward me. You're an ancient spirit walking through the forest with a kidnapped woman at midnight. She shrugged. That's pretty weird. I considered this. That is a fair assessment. She laughed softly. The sound was light and warm. For a moment, I simply listened. There had been a time when laughter surrounded me daily, a lifetime ago. We reached the edge of the town. Cars passed along the road with bright lights that cut through the darkness. I stopped. The machines rushed by like glowing beasts made of metal. Elena noticed immediately. You okay? I am observing. She crossed her arms. You look like someone who just discovered aliens. In many ways, I said slowly, I have. She studied my face carefully. You're nervous. I am not nervous. You stopped walking. I am evaluating. Elena smiled. Right. She stepped closer and gently grabbed my wrist. Come on, ancient spirit. Her hand was warm, steady. She pulled me toward the street. You can't learn the modern world by hiding from it. Her words echoed in my mind. For centuries, I had been hidden beneath the earth, watching, waiting, alone. And now a human woman was dragging me into the bright chaos of the living world. It felt strange, but not unpleasant. We reached the sidewalk near a small convenience store glowing under fluorescent lights. Inside, a man stood behind a counter, staring at his phone. Elena stopped walking. So, first lesson. I looked around. Lesson? She pointed at the store. That's where we're getting you clothes. I looked down at myself. My form still carried shadows that moved faintly around my body. To blend in, she explained. I do not require clothing. You definitely do if you don't want people screaming. I looked through the glass door at the rows of colorful objects. Food, drinks, magazines. It felt like staring into a strange new world. You are comfortable among these people? I asked. Elena shrugged. Not really. Yet you walk into their world anyway. She looked at me seriously for a moment. That's what living is. Her words settled deep within me. For centuries I had existed between worlds. Not living, not dead, just waiting. But now, something had changed. I looked at her again. You have altered the course of my existence. Elena blinked. That's a dramatic way to say I dragged you to a gas station. Nevertheless, I said calmly, it remains accurate. She laughed again and pushed the door open. A bell rang above us. The man behind the counter glanced up briefly, then went back to his phone without noticing anything strange. Elena grabbed a hoodie from a rack and handed it to me. Try this. I pulled the garment over my shoulders. The shadows around my body faded slightly. More solid, more human. Elena nodded with satisfaction. See, now you look like a mysterious guy instead of a supernatural horror. I looked at my reflection in the glass cooler door. For the first time in centuries, I almost looked like a man again. My gaze shifted to Elena beside me. You seem remarkably calm about all of this. She grabbed a bottle of water. I survived a ghost, a kidnapper, and a haunted mansion tonight. She shrugged. At this point, I'm just rolling with it. I studied her carefully. You are stronger than you realize. Elena rolled her eyes playfully. Careful, keep talking like that, and I might start thinking you like me. I paused, because the truth was, I already did, and that realization stirred something unfamiliar inside my ancient heart, something warmer than the cold centuries behind me, something that made the future feel possible. I followed Elena to the counter as she paid for the clothes, and for the first time in hundreds of years, I was not walking alone into the world. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe for more. Those who already subscribed, thank you.